Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is, what the hell day is it already? Thursday, February 5th, 2026. Oh, boy, that makes tomorrow. All right, well, I don't know whether I'll remember or not, but I'll tell you now, tomorrow is what, 2/6/26. Super important, and it means something. I don't know. Go waste money on the lottery, I suppose. 2 and 6 won't get you very far. 0 won't help you at all. So, all right, I don't know. Never mind. Save your money and I don't know what. Spend it all on DoorDash. Apparently, that's the new trend. I think I put aside an article which we'll never get to because it's just not important enough to make it into rotation. But I guess it just did by my mentioning the fact that it happened. Just some interesting, I guess the new generation of those stories that they sometimes have in the New York Times. Or sometimes it's the Wall Street Journal where they say basically, help, I don't know what to do. I can barely make it on my $400,000 a year salary. Someone help figure out why I'm spending $16,000 monthly on candles and $250,000 on DoorDash.
But it won't be the Washington Post.
Right, it won't be them. Hey, what are you doing here? I didn't even...
I just wandered into the room. Is this Argument Clinic?
No, it's not. That's next. Fanfare Clinic.
It's abuse. That's what it is.
Listen, hey, you. Wait a minute. We better get this done quick. Here he is. All right. In case you didn't know, that's just as good a fanfare.
Because I have a new video. It's just breaking.
All right.
I have to play it, and it's right at the top, and it's got these little alarm lights. So
okay, I will look for that. And basically, look, long story short on the other thing, people are spending too much money on DoorDash or whatever. It's not a branded thing. It's now like Q-tips.
Or not.
Right, but they're spending too much and wondering what's happening to their salary, and then they're feeling guilty about it on top of that. It's quite an interesting. It's what a conundrum. Anyway, you can spend an awful lot of money on that stuff if you're not careful. Right. Also, if you are careful. All right, where is this video?
You can also get dinner,
delivered
to your door.
There it is.
It might even almost be warm.
Yes, that's true, too. I'm not crazy about the idea. I've never loved delivery of anything. I prefer to pick it up because it's faster also, and I get it sooner, and it's warmer. But
well, the snowier the roads,
that does become difficult.
It seems.
I guess so. I do see from time to time people complaining on online forums, oh, it's so expensive, too. And then I guess that's where people developed the terminology of burrito taxi. Like if you're hailing a cab to pick up your burrito and bring it to your house, it's going to be expensive.
But some of the delivery folks around here are teenagers in high school, and so tip them and spend the money. It's
actually quite difficult, as it turns out. Some of the apps say, leave a tip for your delivery person, and you put the tip, and they just like yoink, they steal that. It's very difficult to know when your tip is going properly to the delivery person. I guess unless you hand them cash, but since it's mostly contactless.
Yeah, but the other way is you ask them.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, somebody delivers it to you, and then you say to them, hey, if I give you a tip, do you get it? And if they say yes, then that's good.
Yeah, watch out you don't get killed. That was actually a warning, not a tip, from Field of Dreams. Okay, I think I found your video. Is it the only one with alarms and sirens? Or there could be 20?
There's two videos. One is Forecaster Enton talking about polling, but this one is Aaron Rupert talking about the economy, and that's what I want to start with.
All righty then.
So I interrupted the flow and interrupted your
that is okay.
I wanted to make sure this thing got... you had time to do this while we were...
Well, guess what? I don't. I lost track of everything. Okay. Oops. I sent myself a video as well, but I apparently sent it to myself. I sent it once, but I put the URL in my email twice, once on top of it. I double tapped the thing, and I'm having a hell of a time having it just... Look, I want you to highlight just this bit of it. All right, never mind. Why don't we get right to your story, because I'm discombobulated. We might as well do yours. Greg Dworkin, everybody. Good morning. There you go. Now you're in.
Welcome to the recombobulation area.
Oh, that's the other story I have to get to. The damn discombobulator. It's real. Okay. All right. Yeah. I've been hit by it. They didn't turn it on. I just dropped it on my head.
Play the video. Let's find out what's going on.
Harry Enton?
No.
The other one. Aaron Rupert. Okay. This is CNN. This isn't. The video is. Oh. Well, all right. Never mind.
I'm just combobulating David this morning.
Wow.
We're having fun with it.
All right. But this is from CNN, and this is, I don't know I don't know who this person is, but they're very important. All right.
Breaking just moments ago, new data showing January was the worst month for job cuts since the 2009 Great Recession.
Oh.
CNN senior reporter Matt Egan is joining me now.
It was a great recession, wasn't it?
What else is this report telling you?
Yeah, Sarah, look, this is a bad way to start 2026, right? Layoffs way up, hiring way down. So Challenger Gray and Christmas reports that during the month of January, U.S.-based employers announced just over 108,000 layoffs. Now, that is roughly double January of 2025 and roughly triple the end of last year. In fact, Sarah, as you mentioned, this is the highest since January 2009 during the great financial crisis. Of course, that was just months after the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Now, as far as where the layoffs are,
where are they?
It's really largely in two sectors, transportation and technology, really leading the way.
Burrito taxis.
In fact, two companies, UPS and Amazon, account for roughly 40% of the announced layoffs.
Wow, that actually is pretty interesting. UPS and Amazon accounting for most of the layoffs. And I mean, you would think that like layoffs would be driven by people moving their shopping habits to online, but I don't know. I guess that's not what's driving it.
I want to do a little explainer after the done.
Okay, shall we continue? There's a little bit more.
Let's hear the bad news and then.
There's all right. Sure.
Also, healthcare, chemicals, and finance as well. Now, as far as why companies are laying off during the month of January, the leading reason was a loss of contract, market and economic conditions, restructuring as well. Artificial intelligence, as you may have guessed, also playing a role as well.
By the way,
so you put all this together, and
I don't hear him saying here. The first one's up top: contract loss, market / economic conditions. There's another word for probably what's driving all of that. I don't know why he doesn't mention the tariff word, but that's probably got a lot to do with a lot of the top items.
Yeah, it probably does. What's happening is that these companies are stepping back, looking at the layout, the lay of the land, and anticipating things are going to get worse. So they're hunkering down, they're restructuring, they're getting ready, even though the economy's okay at the moment, but they are looking a little bit past next week and thinking it's not going to stay this way. Tariff prices are starting, we said it was going to take a while to kick in. We said 6 months. It's actually a year.
No? Why do we keep delaying?
It took longer than we thought, but now it's starting to kick in. They've run out of inventory. They've run out of ways to fake, dealing with it. And then as a separate but parallel thing, the whole point about tariffs is so Trump can raise them on everything, and then you have to come to him to lower them on individual companies or individual sectors. So he gets to be the big boss, and you got to pay him off in order to do this. This is pay for play. And that's what the tariff is all about. And that's very difficult to anticipate what's going on. But if UPS thinks and Amazon thinks that there's going to be less goods being delivered, they're going to start laying off people. And that's what happens.
Now I see what you mean. Yeah, right. Ordinarily, right. Before tariffs and everything got stood on its head, I think, maybe that's where an analyst might have landed where I did at the outset here. Very often the closure of brick and mortar stores is driven by, a rise in the online shopping sector. But one of the other big problems is...
Which is good for delivery services.
Right. And so usually they are booming. And now all of a sudden, everything we are importing and then delivering, which we used to do on the cheap, is now twice the price. Fewer people are doing it. And everybody gets laid off there. That's not great. What if... You know what? We need a businessman in the White House.
Hey, you know what?
That's
we'll have AI there, so we don't even need that. So we'll lay that guy off.
Yeah, that may be. And this is before the Washington Post layoffs. Not that they were going to drive the national numbers per se, but it's a big deal when the headlines are, hey, the headline people are getting fired.
Well, yeah, I suppose the headline is, look, the guy who owns the company, Jeff Bezos, really screwed up.
Yeah.
everything about his model was wrong. He let Jim Vandehei and Ezra Klein get away. He thought he was going to double down on doing just the way business always was, and it doesn't work that way. We screwed up, therefore reporters have to take the brunt of the fix.
There's still somebody
I also
working
screwed
there.
up by hiring an editor who doesn't know what he's doing and is incompetent, and so the Barry Weissification of the Washington Post is coming full circle.
Wasn't he a British tabloid guy?
Yeah.
Did he hire him? I mean, well, all right.
Scandal plagued with
bad.
Will Lewis, beleaguered Will Lewis. Yeah,
I see.
So, none of that worked.
Okay, well, there is still somebody working there, because otherwise I thought today's headlines in the Washington Post would be like, this place sucks.
Well, we'll talk about
Cancel
that.
your subscription.
The story coming out, exactly
Oh.
that. I hate my job.
Right. Okay.
So we'll do that.
That is happening, just not in the headline.
But I got another video to play first.
Boy. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When I originally
what do you think about that?
Forecaster.
Yeah. Well, I'm a process guy. How are you going to get that played, huh? Yeah, right. You're going to ask me.
You, huh?
Right. Okay. So you move that we play this thing.
You mean you're trying to tell me I can't lay you off?
That's right. All right. So Harry Enton. Oh, and he's arms akimbo and mouth wide open. He's ready to go.
It's Harry Enton.
Okay. Yeah, that's
he
true.
He probably had his diet root beer and he's all set.
Okay. Well, let me. I'll rewind. I don't want to miss a single gem, if there was one.
A single hand gesture.
Right. Okay. So he too is on the set of CNN and gesticulating wildly.
Yeah, Donald Trump made huge gains in 2024 versus 2020 in New York, but now we're looking at a huge Democratic rebound. What are we talking about here? Okay, so you go back, Democrats' margins in New York. In 2024, Kamala Harris won New York by just 13 points. Not a very wide margin at all. But take a look here for New York. Look at how the House Democrats going for the House of Representatives are polling now for 2026. Look at that wide, huge advantage. That is
13
doubling
versus
the margin
27.
that Kamala Harris had back in 2024. They're up by 27 points. And, of course, there are a lot of Republican representatives in New York. You know, talk about Mike Lawler up in the Hudson Valley, right?
No, don't.
When you see numbers like this, you have to be really worried if you're Mike Lawler, because we're talking about a huge Democratic rebound in New York. And oftentimes, Democratic majorities are built on states like New York, eliminating the few Republicans that actually represent it in the House.
So going from New York, go to California. I know you wanted to look at that, too. You've got this. This is what it's looking like in New York. How about California?
Yeah, okay. California has a ton of Republicans, right? And obviously there's a redistricting where Democrats want to eliminate as many Republicans as possible from the House of Representatives. Take a look
Always
here.
a good
Kamala
goal.
Harris, again, she won, but this is actually a relatively small margin for Democrats. She won by 20 points out on the West Coast in the big state of California. But take a look at the 2026 House polling. Again, Democrats, a big rebound. This looks a whole heck of a lot more like 2020 than it does like 2024, with Democrats up by 28 points on the House ballot. Again, this is the type of thing that can help aid a Democratic majority. As I said, you go back to the big Democratic waves, 2006, 2018. Those House majorities were oftentimes built on getting rid of those few Republicans that exist in those big blue states. And this is the type of number, if you're Democrats, you're giving 2 thumbs up for, because this looks like the type of number you want if you want a Democratic majority in the House.
All right. It's hard to
Harry's
know when
so
Harry
excited,
Enton is
he
going
wants
to
to give
pause.
3
Holy cow.
thumbs up.
Right. They're having difficulty miking him. He's so excited. He's shouting past his microphone and getting picked up on the other mics on the floor. I can hear the faintest echo. All right. Well, he is very excited. By the way, his accent reminds me very much. It sounds a lot like Ian Reifowitz. Are they from the same neighborhood, maybe? I
don't know. Buffalo.
I'll have to ask him. Okay. Well,
Buffalo adjacent.
All right. Well, it's very pronounced in him. But okay. But I found his pronunciation bring me back to.
We're talking about his accent. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so he doesn't do that quite. It doesn't go that far. Anyways, that seems more Long Islandish. Okay.
Yeah. Anywho.
Yeah. What the hell were we saying?
You know,
they're
Steve
doing well,
Herman,
Democrats.
The old Voice of America guy who's now on his own. President Trump's overall approval rating remains low at 39%, with 56% disapproving and a whopping 51% strongly disapproving in the new Marist poll.
Oh, strongly disapproving.
This is the highest Marist has ever seen since it started asking how strongly respondents approve or disapprove.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, how long have they been asking that? I assume a long time. Well, it's Marist. We'll okay, they've been around. The strongest... They're the most strongly disapproves that they've ever gotten. Is that what this is about? All right. I don't see how it could be any different. I mean, people are furious. Everybody is, as a matter of fact.
It dates back to 2017.
There is. Oh, okay. Well, I would have thought they've been asking that for a longer time than that. But okay, maybe Marist themselves.
No, once Trump was
Joe at Marist.
Like, okay, how much do you hate? I know you hate this guy. How much do you hate this guy?
Right. Well, it's quite obvious. I saw there's a video somewhere. I don't know. I just thought this was indicative of something in general, some sort of zeitgeist or zeitgeist. How do we say this? Thank you. That there was a loud and audible chant of, well, the chant was full-throated and using the actual words, F ICE, at a big, like, pro wrestling thing that was on TV. I didn't know that I didn't think that the pro wrestling crowd would have gotten it. And it was, the wrestlers are like looking at the camera.
They love Mexican wrestlers. Were they all wearing masks?
They were not. This was not the Mexican lucha libre.
Same concept here.
I guess so. And I mean, in the audience will be people who are maybe immigrants themselves or are, just pals with, hey, my friend got snatched up and taken. We used to go to the wrestling matches together. This sucks. It's interesting.
Well, on the one hand, we now know that immigrants
have to go get that.
Feel the same way about immigration as everybody else, and nothing special about that. And on the other hand, we know everybody hates what the Trump administration is doing.
Yes. So, I guess related story. Trump has announced that the large football game. I guess technically you're not supposed to say the name of without paying them money. That's coming up this Sunday.
The one at the Trump Kennedy Center?
Yeah, sure. Well, he's not going because it's too far away. It's in America. They're having it in America. It's too far away, says Trump. But in fact, they're pretty sure that, like last time, he will be booed wildly, and this time maybe even worse.
It's Santa Clara, so I don't think Californians really like him.
No, they don't. But it is easily reachable by aeroplane, and he's got one. There's nothing too far about it, but fine, good. No one really wanted him to go and ruin the game anyway.
Whereas the Marist poll does have lousy numbers for Trump, their February 5th poll is actually titled The Actions of ICE, February 2026. Americans increasingly disapprove of ICE's actions. Okay. So that's why he's going to get booed. 65% say ICE has gone too far. 12%, Steve Miller's family, say it's not gone far enough. Right? And 22%, Mike Johnson, says it's about right because everything's all about right. So apparently Johnson's family is bigger than Steve Miller's family.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're, I don't know whether he's the first son or first child, but I guess if Steve's your first, you'd say, that's it.
Yeah.
We're getting everything tied. No more kids, please.
It reminds me of an old Steve Martin bit, Okay. Well, people say to me, Steve, and I think that's funny because my name isn't Steve and it's never been Steve. So when people come up to me and say, Steve, I think, well, why are you saying that? So anyway, 65 Americans, up from 54% in June of 2025, think the actions of ICE have gone too far. And is down slightly from 26% who think it's okay. Increasing proportions of Democrats, 93% up from 83%, and independents, 71% up from 59%, think the actions of ICE in enforcing immigration have gone too far. How did Democrats not be at 93% to begin with? The answer is people on Long Island, for example, who are Democrats representing the Long Island constituents who admit now they made a mistake in voting to fund ICE. Those Democrats are the ones who moved from 83% to 93%.
So they are. All right.
And 62% of Americans say the actions of ICE are making Americans somewhat less safe or more less safe. And that's important because Republicans run on law and order.
Law and order. Right. You can have your Law and Order delivered.
Four Seasons, landscaping agenda.
Okay.
Lowering prices should be the administration's top policy.
Sure.
But it's not. The majority think tariffs are harmful to the national economy. We're seeing that this morning. Majority with favorable impression of NATO membership benefits the U.S., say nearly 2/3. Opposition among Americans exists to own Greenland. They're just doing topical things here. More than 7 in 10 think the president should have to consult Congress before taking military action, despite his Venezuela, quote, triumph, unquote, in scare quotes. Mm-hmm. President Trump's approval rating of 39%, negative rating on economy reaches new highs. So it's not just that Trump's approval rating is low, it's especially low on the most important issue.
No, dear. Okay.
Now, Quinnipiac. President Trump approved 37, that's down 3 points, disapproved 56, lowest second-term net approval. 61% of voters think the Trump administration has not given an honest account of the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti. 58% of voters think DHS Secretary Kristi Noem should be removed. So
Kristi Noem thinks
it's very popular.
Yeah. It is.
That's your first impeachment that you should do.
Yes, people are talking about it. I did see sort of the challenge laid out and challenge accepted, and yet Democrats not quite exactly sure how they're going to move on this thing. But they really should move forward with her impeachment regardless. And they keep saying, the leadership keeps saying, well, she can either resign or face impeachment. And she's apparently not going to resign. So, but even if she does,
impeachment.
Do it anyway.
Got to get his act together, but they got more important things to do.
Get it started. Okay,
they got to do
they have to negotiate
the DHS thing first.
Well,
what if they eliminate her
position?
Her position, because what's happening is the Democrats got what they wanted. Republicans are now refusing to negotiate. That's not surprising. It has to be Trump. Democrats have to negotiate with Trump because Republicans are powerless to make decisions.
Right. Foolish. You're wasting your time.
So the fact that Republicans are digging in doesn't matter. Democrats now have, we're not going to fund it unless you give in to our demands, which includes having them act lawfully. And they don't act lawfully. And Republicans are saying, we're not giving in to these ridiculous demands. And Democrats are saying, fine, eliminate the department. I don't care.
All right.
Resign your damn commission, hot lips, see if I care. And so what happens now? Yeah. And it's just interesting because Republicans aren't in a position to decide anything. If Trump decides that it looks bad for him, they're going to negotiate. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Okay.
And that's the background to this third poll, not just Marist, not just Quinnipiac, but now Insider Advantage, likely voters. One-day poll on February 1st. One-day polls aren't all that accurate, but new Trump approval poll, they have approve 50, disapprove 49. That's a 7-point improvement for Trump.
That does sound
Not only is it a wild swing, but the reason I want to illustrate that, it's not a particularly good poll. It's not as bad as the Harvard-Harris poll, but it is a Republican-leaning poll. And those outlets like Real Clear Politics and others who want to put a finger on the scale for Trump will include a lot of polls like this one, RMG or other polls that are just Trafalgar that are known to be Republican favored. And so, that skews the averages. It screws the sites that try to do some sort of composite track. And it's one of the reasons why it's a little difficult to follow these aggregate sites now, because they're being skewed by polls like Insider Advantage. That's why I wanted to highlight. Trump is not at 50%.
No,
it's a
I don't feel like
poll,
he is.
But including garbage polls is going to change your aggregate, so just be careful.
Yes, and it is sometimes theorized that is the purpose of having so many garbage polls.
Yeah, that's why they poll so often.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I said.
That's what I said.
Right, true.
What are we talking about here? That's what we're talking about here.
Oh, I just saw the wrestling thing go by. All right, Aaron Rupar has the wrestling video. Excellent.
Yay. So Steve Bannon is now calling for immigration agents at polling sites during midterms. That's one of the reasons why ICE is doing this so unpopular.
He's predicting that it will
what's
happen.
Going on here. Trump knows he's going to lose, and now he wants to throw the election. Just so everybody's clear.
I guess so. Yes, Jamel Bowie made an excellent point about it, too, something to remind. He was saying, more than calling for it, he was saying that would happen, and you have to look out because they're going to get you at the polling place. And Jamel Bowie was saying, you should know that, he's full of crap, generally speaking, and you should keep in mind the very distinct possibility that this has nothing to do with reality. He is saying this so that people panic and gossip about it and start worrying.
Also, MAGA is very upset that Trump is easing off in Minnesota to the extent that he pretends to ease off.
Right. The Minnesotans will tell you it feels the same.
Right, but MAGA's upset that it doesn't feel worse.
Nobody's been shot lately.
To them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, 700 agents are leaving, which leaves 2,000. It's a kinder, gentler hitting you on the head with a truncheon.
Right,
sure. And so you don't have the same revenge porn. And so therefore Steve Bannon's got to say, well, we got other things planned. Don't worry. Don't leave us.
Yeah.
Don't walk out. Show up at the midterms because we got this plan.
Yeah. Oh, and when you do show up at the midterms, wear one of those crazy vests and make it and some masks and make it look like you're ICE. I think, by the way, that may be the plan. More so than actually dispatching agents, which would be easy enough to do because they just put Proud Boys in a uniform. But
right.
Yeah, they don't have nearly enough agents to cover the country, but that doesn't mean that there won't be people dressed up like that looking to scare people. Freelance.
So we're not quite at the break, but I think after the break we're going to talk just a little bit about Texas.
All right.
I'm as fond of talking about Texas as I am of Maine.
Well, everything they do in Texas
damn
is
primaries were done already, but I think
that would be
something
nice
to talk about.
All right. Yeah, we'll do. All right. So Texas after the break. I will use the run up to the break to let everybody know that the National Prayer Breakfast, it seems like there's 15 of these each year, but I guess there's really only one. And Trump is there because apparently he's president of the United States, and they do invite that guy to go. And naturally, he's using he's grabbed the microphone and is telling everybody how big his electoral victories were and how badly he wants to punish and hurt people. At the prayer thing. I hate everybody, but I totally won.
In Georgia, in the last 3 elections, he won 5 times.
Yes, he does say that. By the way, I did know this is the prayer breakfast. There is, in fact, a stack of Bibles available. Put them to work. Stack them up and say, swear on a stack of Bibles that you won.
Are these Lee Greenwood Bibles?
I don't know. Right. Somebody made a profit off of these Bibles, I'm sure. Probably about 16 of the people at the prayer breakfast. All right, we'll be right back. I swear. Hi, everybody. It's me, David, still your host for the Kagro in the Morning Show after all these years. Thank you for all your continuing support for the show. And if you're listening regularly and still thinking about getting on board as a supporter, well, the time is now. Patreon.com is the easiest way to make recurring subscription-style payments every month, all year round, to keep us going. patreon.com/KagroX brings you to our page where you can sign up with your monthly support. And hey, have you seen our clever new subscription tiers? It's easier than ever to sign up for, say, $1 crisp bill for every information-packed 2-hour show. If you're the plan ahead type, there's even a year-long subscription program that saves you 15% on the cover price. Or it would if there was a cover price, or even a cover, for that matter. patreon.com/KAGROX. Thanks again for all your support. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Ed Roots Radio. Prayer breakfast. If you're eating breakfast, you can pray that it's not full of E. coli because you didn't get it from Ballerina Farms. I just keep thinking about them and their raw milk situation. Has nothing to do with anything, but Donald Trump tearing it up at the National Prayer Breakfast, and Aaron Rupar doing a great job letting everyone know and keeping everyone up to date on the latest non-prayer type thing that he's screaming into a microphone in front of a bunch of, I guess, religious nuts who love him despite, the Epstein files or whatever. So, where were we? We were headed to Texas, right? That's what we were holding for after the break.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I have to go look up. I'm not sure when or whether the Republican and the Democratic Senate primaries, which are going to happen in March, I don't know if they're on the same day. But the Republican one's going to be in 26 days. And interestingly, the NRSC.
Yes.
Which is the Republican Senate Committee.
Republican Senate, yeah.
That tries to raise money for Senate candidates, put out a Republican internal memo with a Republican internal polling. Short memo, here's what it says. Texas cannot be taken for granted, and the Republican nominee must be able to both consolidate the base and hold persuadable voters. Remember, this is the NRSC. In other words, it's the incumbent party trying to protect its own incumbents.
All right.
Our data shows only one candidate meets that threshold, and that's John Cornyn. Not Ken Paxton, who is really popular in Texas and will probably win, but John Cornyn,
yeah, well,
everybody thinks is an old dude whose time has passed.
Sure.
Is that ageism? Look, that's the voters, not me. Don't talk to me about that.
Yeah.
Paxton's general election viability across both public and private polling, the data is consistent and unambiguous. John Cornyn is the only Republican candidate who reliably wins a general election matchup. That's why this is notable. General election matchups from NRSC internal polling conducted February 1st through 2nd, so it's 2 days, not one, like Insider Advantage. Cornyn versus Tallarico, Cornyn +3. Paxton versus Tallarico, Tallarico +3 million.
Yeah, Ken Paxton. Boo!
Tallarico beats Ken Paxton.
So they say.
Can Tallarico win in Texas? Maybe. Clearly this is put out because they want to convince Trump to endorse Cornyn. That's why they did this. But, interesting nonetheless, Cornyn versus Crockett, Cornyn +7. Paxton versus Crockett, Paxton +1. The only combo where the Democrat wins is Tallarico versus Paxton. So if I'm a Democrat, I'm thinking, okay, well, I want Tallarico. And if I'm a Democrat, I'm thinking, okay, I want Paxton.
Yeah, true. Although you also might be thinking, if I'm a Democrat, why am I listening to polling from the NRSC?
Well, because the public polling says the same thing.
Oh, well, all right then. I do want to point out, though, in terms of the Paxton versus Cornyn thing, this is to be expected. Remember that the NRSC is funded by the incumbent Republicans in the Senate, giving them. So this is an incumbency retention operation.
Yeah, it's an incumbency protection racket, no question.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I hope I said that at the beginning.
I don't think we did. Although I'll tell you what, I don't remember. What was that, like a minute ago?
Yeah. So when you play the tape later, you'll see. I already said that.
Okay.
I'm only pointing this out because it's so true. You have to say it twice.
Yes. Okay.
This is designed to prop up Cornyn. It's designed to get Trump to endorse Cornyn. That's the purpose of the whole thing.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Trump.
So I'm thinking,
go for Paxton.
Paxton.
Yeah, he'll definitely do it. Right. Okay. So I guess I'd like to be rid of Paxton forever, but I don't think even defeating him in the primary means he goes away. It just means he doesn't run for Senate. He just stays as Attorney General, I guess. But all right. Well, if he's actually the weaker candidate, terrific. I'll take it.
There's a lot of undecided, so you can't look at this and say,
I'm undecided.
Well, clearly, this is it's not decided. We'll know in 3.5 weeks. We don't really know. We don't know which of the 4 candidates are running against each other. Yes. Either one, Cornyn or Paxton could win. Either one, Tallarico or Crockett could win. We don't know. But it's of interest. They're really, really, really trying to get John Cornyn, and I don't know that he's going to win.
All right. Good. I should like to see him gone as well. Yeah.
Let's move from Texas to Virginia.
All right.
The great Commonwealth of Virginia.
Sure.
This is from Bolts Magazine. Virginia's new governor ends ICE program. Local contracts remain for now. Abigail Spanberger left the 287G program, which empowered state law enforcement to detain immigrants. Well, Democrats also bar local police and sheriffs from the same. Interestingly, remember, Abigail Spanberger was smeared somewhat as a centrist.
Yeah, milquetoast.
What's she gonna? She's actually been incredible just in her first few weeks of being governor.
It sounds good. I mean,
she did great things with the what are they called? The boards of visitors at the various Virginia colleges.
Your visit's over.
Straight.
Visiting hours are over, sir.
That's right.
For you.
She's doing this. She rushed to assist President Trump's deportation agenda last year, or Governor Glenn Youngkin did. Rushed to assist President Trump's deportation agenda last year and pushed local sheriffs and police chiefs to join his successor, Democrat Abigail Spanberger, put an end to that. Fulfilling a campaign promise to roll back collaboration. Everybody hates ICE. It's going to be a popular thing to do.
Yeah. Right. True. And, okay. Oh, by the way, she's also driving national Republicans completely insane. They are really going to town. It's so funny that she has
not just that, Meghan McCain as well.
Yes. Yeah, she's also nuts. And yeah, they're driving them absolutely crazy with this stuff. And having built this reputation, correct or not, deserved or not, as a staid centrist type person, it's really working to her advantage as Republicans go work overtime to try to paint her as this, like they always do with everybody. She's insane. She's a socialist. She's
communist radical.
Right. And everybody's like,
because you know what happened.
But yeah.
Well,
no, what?
Somebody, and this goes back to I'm just a bill. Remember how this stuff works?
Yeah.
Somebody gets elected. Once they're elected, then they get to propose a bill.
Yes.
Has to go to committee. Leadership has to approve, usually. Then it goes to the floor. It gets voted on. Then it has to go to the other house. Then the executive has to sign. All these things have to happen.
Yes.
But just proposing a bill is not passing a law. That's all I'm saying.
Right, and that's the basis of a lot of this freakout and very often it's not Abigail Spanberger at all who's doing it. It's somebody else in the legislature.
Who's been bringing up, I want to impeach Donald Trump every year since 2016. We got people like that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right?
And we have them in Virginia.
Oh, look, that means Hakeem Jeffries is a wild-eyed radical because somebody proposed. No, that's not how it works.
True. And that's basically the dynamic here. But you have, Meghan McCain and others freaking out over various proposals. But another one that goes even further with the use of the governor's power to designate members of the boards of visitors of various state schools. And I think now the new freakout is Virginia Military Institute. That there are some members of the board of visitors there who might not have been doing enough to make for a safe environment for minority students there. It's a kind of an old line sort of place, VMI. Anyway, but essentially looking to revamp the place so that, it's not acceptable to taunt black cadets with nooses, let's say. You would get in trouble for doing things like that sort of thing, which sometimes happens all over the place. There's racists everywhere, but VMI has had some difficulty with it in the past, but the Pentagon now stepping in saying, if you do this, Trump's administration meddles everywhere. If you implement any reforms at VMI, we won't commission any of its graduates into the armed forces anymore. I don't think that they can afford to do that. I don't know whether it's a serious threat or not. I guess with these guys, anything's a serious threat because they're crazy. But, just another one of those things that they're freaking out about. It's so terrible that Abigail Spanberger, communist at large, is trying to make it possible for people who want to dedicate their career to the United States military to do so and to be able to concentrate on their studies and be left alone to do it.
She's trying to radicalize the state, says Meghan McCain.
Right.
What is she talking about?
Meghan McCain's complaint, I think, was that somebody said that they were going. Well, Virginia's move to reinstate voting rights for convicted felons who have served their time and are released. Oh, well, they're going to let child rapists vote. Well, I mean, got one as a president.
And it's just amazing. But a lot of the stuff she's complaining about, Spanberger did.
Yeah.
And
at
a lot
least
of the
there's
stuff
that.
She's complaining about, Spanberger has nothing to do with. It's some rando in the House.
That's clearly the game plan. Right? And probably a good person whose proposal we support. But yes, that's the game plan, obviously. Anything that anybody can pin on Democrats, whether it was Spanberger who did it, whether anybody has done it. Maybe somebody once thought about it. Maybe nobody ever thought of it.
It's one of those, look, I already understand that all of you know that the only reason I have this job as analyst is because of my father, so I'm a Nepo analyst. Right. And I want you to understand that I don't understand anything about anything, and I learned nothing since 2016. And I voted for Winsome Earl Sears and would again, because she's trying to radicalize it. What are you even talking about?
No one knows.
I think this goes under the Megyn Kelly brand of, I have to say radical things because not enough of you are listening to me, and I'm losing money on my click and like. And so I got to make some noise here so you remember that I exist. Otherwise, how am I supposed to pay the bills?
Yeah,
so
that's
me,
crazy.
That's what a lot of it is coming down to.
True. By the way, everyone, click and like our things because they're good and non-crazy. Thank you. That was
I like what Spanberger is doing. But here's an interesting thing Spanberger did.
All right.
She's getting into a bit of an argument, public argument with L. Louise Lucas.
Oh.
Louise Lucas wants a 10-to-1 redistricting.
Yeah. Good.
Very much so.
She's right.
And she's right. And Spanberger
doesn't.
How about considering 9-2? And the reason I say that is I'm not sure we have the votes in the Senate for 10-1.
Well.
And Louise Lucas says, we do.
Yeah, ask a senator. I mean, maybe that would be a good idea.
Yeah. So I don't really care which one of those wins the argument so long as we get it done.
Sure, it would be better than we have.
10-1 over 9-2, but if Spanberger's right and they don't have the votes, 9-2. And if Louise Lucas is right about the votes, 10-1. It's just pretty easy.
I mean, they are right. They're very time limited in the Virginia legislature. There's deadlines for things like this. So ordinarily, like in a different setting, you might say, why not both? Essentially, try both. Go ahead, try 10-1. If it doesn't work, do 9-2.
Yeah.
But they are pressed for time. That's
right.
That's true. But I bet they could make that work.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
Just write the bill twice.
Informing our listening public
that
there's this discussion going on. So
yes.
Not a slam dunk.
Also, by the way, I mean, a good point here probably to be made is Louise Lucas, entirely correct, 10-1, it'll work, it's fine. Abigail Spanberger saying, you know what's not working is calling me a radical communist, and here's why. Watch this. Couldn't we consider 9-2, though? Maybe that would be a little less radical. Oh, look how centrist she is. Yeah, well, 10-2 is where the votes are. 10-1 is where the votes are. Oh, well, I tried.
Right. I can't decide whether I don't like you because you're a centrist or I don't like you because you're a radical, but either way, you blew away the competition when we elected you, so, maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
She's working hard and doing a good job so far.
Doing a great job.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do Chris Geithner, who calls himself the law dork.
He does. He's not that much of a dork. Come on. But okay, he knows the law.
Well, that's
we have
self-characterization.
Yes, it's endearing. Okay.
Here's our professional working around the phone.
Yes. Good. You did a good job with it. Right. Okay.
And
Chris.
You didn't even notice.
Hi,
so
Chris.
There we go.
You sound like Greg.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Chris Geithner tweets, the unfathomable Minnesota transcript that must be read as it tells the reality of America today.
That's why.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that Julie Lee, a government lawyer for the DOJ, was talking to a judge and basically
they do that.
I want you to find me in contempt so I can get 24 hours worth of sleep right out of my cousin Vinny.
Right, I'll bail you out. No,
in the transcript, she also says, I am not white, as you can see, and my family's at risk as any other people that might get picked up too. So he provides the entire transcript, which isn't that long. And let me just give you some highlights. I'm here as a bridge and a liaison between the one that's in jail, because if I walk out, sometime I wish you would just hold me in contempt, Your Honor, so I can have a full 24 hours of sleep. I work days and nights just because people still are still in there in jail. And she says, detention without lawful authority is not just a technical defect, it's a constitutional injury that unfairly falls on the heads of those who have done nothing wrong to justify it. That's the judge.
Yeah.
And then says, they do wield extraordinary power, that is DOJ, DHS, ICE. They're not above the law, and that power has to exist within constitutional limits. And then he says, if the government undertakes an enforcement operation of this scale, one that results in the detention of large numbers of people, including individuals who are lawfully present in the U.S., then the government assumes a corresponding obligation to ensure each detention complies with the Constitution and with court orders governing release. Volume of cases and matters is not a justification for diluting constitutional rights. What you cannot do is detain first and then sort out lawful authority later. Right? You can't shoot him and then say God will sort it out.
Yeah. You're not supposed to. Not usually permitted.
And then Julie Lee got up and said, I was put on this special mission to help with the U.S. Attorney Office with all the habeas claims that they've received. They're overwhelmed and they need help. So do I. I have to say, stupidly enough to volunteer. I started with the agency on January the 5th. As of today, it's been more than 4 weeks.
Yes, she used to be a in-house counsel of some sort at
I used to be at
Homeland
Department of Homeland Security as an ICE attorney in the immigration court.
There you are. Yes. So she operated in a totally different sphere, but as they needed more U.S. attorneys, they just started transferring people.
They just pulled them. So the court says, so are you telling the court that, there's a quote, are you telling the court that you were brought in brand new, a shiny brand new penny into this role and you received no proper orientation or training what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
And Julie Lee says, I have to say yes to that question, Your Honor.
Yeah, I mean, you might wonder, well, how does a lawyer arrive without any sense of how a court works? Not quite exactly, I don't think, a fair characterization, but she was working inside of immigration court, which work very differently and aren't judicial branch courts also. They're executive branch.
So
pseudo
the court
courts.
orders one of these detainees to be released. They're not released, and the court feels like it's not being paid attention to.
It isn't.
And then the judge has summarized the purpose of the hearing as he sees it. So what can the court expect going forward? Because this is obviously not workable, and it's certainly not an example of complying with the court's order unless you feel it is. And Julie Lee says, no, I don't feel like it is at all. I'm trying my very best to help to come up with a system or a procedure somehow so that we, taking on the detail, can help moving it forward and smoothly in complying with the court.
Yeah.
And then
she's
addressing the fact that responses, this is all from Chris Geidner's analysis, had often suggested that DOJ had provided the orders to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and in effect what happened next was on ICE. The judge, Jerry Blackwell, what's the story, Jerry? So Blackwell says, I wholeheartedly embrace the notion of a unitary executive, and if there's a problem in the restaurant, I don't intend to go to the kitchen to try to figure out who makes the bread. All of it is part of the executive, and it's not an excuse to tell me you contacted ICE, because ICE is also part of the unitary executive for accountability purposes.
Yeah, I was a little dismayed to hear him say, well, I wholeheartedly endorse the unitary executive theory, but I think he's doing it in a backhanded fashion here, basically saying, all right, you want to be a unitary executive, then you're responsible for everything.
Yeah. Okay. Let's agree on that. So if that's the case, then you are the responsible party. And then he says, why is it so easy for the Trump administration to fly people out of Minnesota and so difficult to fly them back? Mm-hmm. And the lawyer said, Your Honor, I asked the same question and I haven't gotten the answer.
Yeah, they're not providing it and they don't feel like they have to. It is a very unusual situation. Well, it is
That's unusual!
Quite correct, yes.
It is.
Because, remember, the lawyer is there representing ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. I know she's doing it under the auspices of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Yep. But yeah, the client here is the government and the immigration enforcement apparatus, and she's basically standing there telling the judge, "Oh yeah, this thing is a disaster. We should lose."
Right. I'm doing my best, but it's not working. And the judge says, well, you're here because it's not working. And the lawyer says, I agree with you, Your Honor. So she says,
this is not what she's supposed to be doing.
I did put in for a request to be transferred back, but no one was willing to come here to stand in front of you to explain.
I'm glad we're getting this insight.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the things she didn't learn because she wasn't really working in a normal Article 3 court is even if you face this kind of impossible situation, the thing you're supposed to do is simply say, yeah, by the way, I'm withdrawing from this case. I can no longer ethically go forward with it. And the judges all understand exactly what that means. But she's spilling the beans. I don't know if this is going to help her in the future, but she clearly wants out one way or another. Wow. So, yeah, you usually don't get this kind of insight. You usually make what lawyers recognize and call a noisy withdrawal. You drop out of the case in such a way that everybody knows the code words for what's happening here. But she's just saying, she's saying the quiet part out loud.
Right.
Rather than...
Well, here's the other quiet part,
as
the
quiet part of a noisy
withdrawal. Summarizing the problem before the courts in Minnesota and elsewhere in the months since the Kavanaugh stops, Kelly then told Blackwell, and again, this is all Kavanaugh stop problem. detain first, find authority later. This is exactly their strategy. That's the lawyer for the people who've been detained. And we've seen this from all of our cases. Most of my clients, they report that respondents, upon detaining them, have no idea who they are. They're pulled for how they look or where they are, or for any number of things that don't amount to probable cause under the U.S. Constitution.
Yes.
And then this lawyer for the people detained says, I invite the court to think about this root cause of the problem, the root cause of our collective overwork here, and the strain in our system with these repeated constitutional violations. In other words, the reason everything is so screwed up is those damned Kavanaugh stops that were approved by Justice Kavanaugh, who then backtracked a little bit and said, you're using them in a way that I didn't intend. Well, they're using them in the way that you exactly said.
Yes.
I thought you were a what do they call it? A strict constructionist here. Your words matter.
Yeah. No. I mean,
so
we thought that was the case, but no.
Pretty interesting. Julie Lee's time at the U.S. Attorney's Office ended yesterday.
Yes, I can imagine that would be the case. The Maine Justice was very anxious to get her out of there. She got what she wanted. It may be, a career problem, but she may, want to open a cupcake shop now rather than...
Yeah, an ice cream store somewhere in Minnesota, because everybody wants ice cream in the middle of winter. Scott McFarlane reports that it's not just her, 300 plus.
Yeah.
Former Justice Department attorneys asked Pam Bondi to allow local investigators to probe Alex Pretti and Renee Good killings. They argue blocking state and local agencies from investigating potential violations of state law in their own jurisdictions poses a threat to the rule of law. They're absolutely right.
Yeah,
so I think, again, where's the pushback?
She says,
There's plenty of pushback. It's mostly in the courts, and it has to take its time to wend its way through the system, so to speak.
Yes.
So you don't see it right up front, but it's all there.
Yeah, and I will remind everybody of just something. Keep in mind in the background, a lot of times, as people have pointed out, the institution that's most likely to stand up and try and prop up its guardrails against Trump, I don't know how well it's working in general, but the best performance is coming from the judiciary. And that does frequently include Trump-appointed judges who are just saying, I went to law school and I paid a lot of money for it, and so I value this whole training, and I don't like that they're doing things in the way that they're not supposed to. There are a very small number of Trump-appointed judges who don't care anything about it and are ruining everything for everybody. But I bring that up only because there are definitely still Trump judicial nominees that are getting approved, and sometimes with enough, with votes from Democrats, and it's bothering everybody. And it should. I mean, symbolically, you just have to say you've lost all credibility. Even your good nominees, if there are good nominees, who would uphold the rule of law like some of your other nominees are doing, and you want to eliminate them. But yeah, you can still say, but you've lost all credibility and we can't vote for your guys. But there is that. I mean, I'll just remind you, there are several Trump-appointed judges who say, no, this is outrageous. You can't do this. Whether they're the ones holding sway in the end is a different question. But that comes up because I have video that I will share with you after the break, I assume, of Senator Blumenthal. You know that guy? You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
He's one of your guys.
Name.
Yeah, and questioning...
he was our Attorney General.
Yeah. So he knows a little bit about this, as it turns out. Questioning 4 Trump judicial nominees yesterday, all at once. They were in a panel, and asking them, watch this, demonstrating something. I think he had inside knowledge of this. Asking them, who won the 2020 presidential election? And not only will they not really, they use weasel words to answer the question, but it's the same ones. They're scripted. They have scripted answers. They have political minders.
They're like
who
the
will
bots
pull
on
their
Twitter that all say the same thing. It's amazing.
Yeah. They'll pull their nomination if they don't deliver exactly, like word for word, this answer. And it's very weird. I'll play you the tape later on. So I'll give you the opportunity to close things out for the week.
Well, good. I'm done.
Yeah, well, then all right. Then I'll play the tape. I don't know. I guess I could play some of it if you want. It really is quite amazing. Here's Blumenthal posing the question, but you're going to hear their responses. I mean, you get the idea. I won't have to play the whole tape.
Let me ask each of you, beginning with Mr. Davis, who won the popular vote in 2020?
Senator, in 2020, President Biden was certified and served 4 years as president.
Who won the popular vote?
Senator, the same answer. President Biden was certified.
St. John?
Senator, Joe Biden was certified the winner of the 2020 election and served 4 years.
Judge Shepard?
Senator, President Biden was certified the winner and served 4 years.
Mr. Wolf?
Same answer, Senator.
Same answer. Once again, refusing to acknowledge who won the popular vote. I am insulted as a member of this body that you simply won't tell us the truth.
And now he goes on, by the way, to ask them, well, let me ask it to you this way. Who won the Electoral College vote? And they give the same answer, literally the same words again. President Biden was certified and served 4 years. Like, I don't know how it happened. I don't know why they certified him. They just did. And I mean, I acknowledge the fact that he was said to be president for the last 4 years. But that's it. And you're not allowed to say anything else. And it's real. I think he goes on to ask, by the way, also, let me ask you a different question. He asks them, was the U.S. Capitol attacked on January 6th, 2021? And likewise, they have a different answer, obviously, because you can't say President Biden was certified. That doesn't answer the question. But they say, well, it would be improper for me to characterize the nature of the events at the Capitol. Well, did you see the video? Yes. Can you tell us what you saw? Again, it would be improper for me to try to characterize this. So obviously, the point of the question is you're going to be a judge. And if people are presenting evidence to you and asking whether or not it can be admitted at trial, if the president calls you and says, that's not evidence, are you going to say that's not evidence, or are you going to judge and, offer some insight into this stuff? All right. Well, we got our music is a little bit late here, but you can say, so your senator did a good job with it, Greg. I appreciate, although I wish it had been more pointed, I suppose, but you know how polite they are.
Yeah.
But it was really something. And he points out a tremendous problem there. And that would be difficult, I think, to cast a vote for in the confirmation portion of our program. Hopefully, well, I guess you won't see Blumenthal there. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Now an hour without Greg, and it's very tough. I wanted to sneak that in. I probably could have waited until afterwards, but I wanted him to hear how his senator is doing. Yes, in fact, so as I mentioned, the questioning goes on, and they go through a second round of this, and it's kind of interesting to hear just back to back.
Chillingly of what
Senator
you will do
Blumenthal.
as a United States District Judge if you're confirmed. Let me ask each of you.
It does.
Who won the Electoral College in the 2020 election?
Guess what they're going to say?
Senator, in 2020, President Biden was certified and served 4 years as president.
Ms. St. John?
Same answer, Senator.
Ms. Judge Shepard?
Senator, same answer.
Mr. Wolf?
Same answer, Senator.
Now, you don't see their faces in this angle. They're covering Senator Blumenthal sort of bemusedly watching them give the same answer. Literally, the words same answer, but the same phrasing. President Biden was certified and served 4 years. It's like it's very weird phrasing, and to hear every single one of them do it. I was looking for some indication in their facial expressions that they knew what they were doing and didn't like it. I'm not certain it's there. I think maybe Anna St. Clair looks maybe the least comfortable with it, but also they're all quite young, which is, sort of the Republican MO here. But yeah, it bothers me, and I guess maybe it's time to make another phone call to Tim Kaine's office. Like, please stop voting for these people. They don't need your votes to be confirmed, and I don't think you're winning any brownie points with anybody by looking like, although, we did just see Abigail Spanberger kept up this act and wrote it to the governor's office and then is acting like a Democrat ought to be acting once she's there. But see, Tim Kaine's not going there. And I mean, I think this is the terminal office probably for Tim Kaine. So just do the job and do it like a Democrat. But I mean, you shouldn't feel bad about it given how awful these answers are. All right. Anyway, look, I got a note here that says from Scott that we're on the air at 10, which I guess means that our break, not roll, and we chatted in between. All right. Well, we didn't say anything offensive, I don't think. But, yeah, I don't know. Well, we need a full accounting, a full audit of our break programming. I don't understand how it could go differently from one day to the next, because I think it's set, automatically. And if it's working on a Wednesday, there's no reason why it shouldn't be working on a Thursday, unless there's some sort of glitch somewhere. Anyway, the point really is that these guys should be getting no votes. Although I did offer as something of an excuse, not an excuse, but I know that there are senators who sort of old school believe, well, a president is entitled to his nominees. I think this is just a different story altogether. Donald Trump, a normal president, might be entitled to his nominees, but really isn't. You can absolutely oppose a president and the president's nominees across the board if you want to. There's nothing wrong with it. Republicans do it all the time. They sometimes won't even allow a nominee to come up for a vote. I think you probably remember that from recent history. But you don't have to do it, and you won't change the outcome of anything either. You won't gum up the works by, filibustering the judicial pipeline anymore, since it's no longer possible. So these guys, if Republicans are willing to accept them and put themselves out as accepting this kind of behavior from nominees, there's nothing you can do about it. They'll get the judgeship that they were supposed to, that they were up for. So what's the issue? Just vote no, and look, everybody will forget about it, quite honestly. But when you go on record and say, sure, yeah, I mean, and again, like, it is good context to say some of these people that I vote yes on are, in fact, relatively speaking, qualified for the job. They've been, attorneys working in the, at the highest levels for a couple of years. I disagree with them vehemently, and I certainly disagree with the president who nominated them. But there's otherwise nothing wrong with them. And I suspect they may be the kind of person who will arrive on the bench and then occasionally buck the administration and rule the other way, as several Trump appointees have already. Maybe. But you know what? The good news is, if there is good news about this, you'll get the benefit of their occasionally ruling in compliance with the rule of law, even without your vote. They don't actually need it in order to get the appointment to the bench. And if they're inclined to actually uphold the rule of law as traditionally taught, then great. And then they're not going to not do it. You know what? I love the rule of law, but man, am I annoyed that I only was confirmed to this seat with, 53 votes, 52 votes. No, they'll be just as happy. So I feel like there's no reason to cast your votes with them. Anyway, so Blumenthal bemusedly looking on as they answer with their non-answer about the Electoral College. And then, of course, he approaches it slightly differently.
Don't you feel kind of like monkeys or puppets here, having been given that answer by your minders without
That's right. That's the point right
standing
there.
up and speaking out what the truth is? Let me ask you this question, Mr. Davis. Was the United States Capitol attacked on January 6, 2021?
Senator, any characterization of the events that occurred on January 6th would wade into political waters. As a sitting nominee for a federal judicial position, it would be inappropriate under the canons of judicial conduct for me to discuss anything that would characterize.
Have you seen video footage of the attack?
Yes, Senator.
Aha, I got him to say it was an attack.
What did you see in those videos?
Senator, again, describing that in ways I think the video speaks for itself, and people can draw their own inferences. Anything more than that would be getting into characterizing.
I thought that was interesting, too. The video speaks for itself. Yes, that's great, but the video hasn't been nominated. You have. I'm asking you to speak for yourself. Well, the video speaks. I know. Lots of people speak all the time. What about you? Well, he's obviously not going to answer, but that would have been at least embarrassing, I suppose.
You're not going to be sitting on a case involving the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. To tell us you won't answer this question is an insult to our intelligence. Let me ask.
That's true. And that's the end of the tape that got circulated by Jay Willis, who says, by the way, that he'll be writing about this. Where does he do his writing? Jay Willis, jaywillis.net, for one thing. I write about courts, democracy, media, and the raccoon family living in a tree behind my house. Very interesting. That's not what this is about. Ballsandstrikes.org. There you go. Plus more writing at jaywillis.net. And he does promise he'll be writing about this. Yeah, I'll bet that it's done well, too. But, yeah, this is a very embarrassing episode for America. But I don't know about for these guys. It's hard to tell whether they're really uncomfortable with it or not, or they've gotten used to the idea. All right, time to head back to Instapaper and the other sources of things I wanted to share with you for one reason or another. What is this one? Oh, yeah. This is sort of court-related, and it reminds me of another story that's probably still parked in Instapaper, but who knows how long I would have to scroll to find it, but something I wanted to bring to your attention a while ago, and I feel like we didn't get a chance to discuss it. I think we hinted at it at one point. The Pulitzer Prize Board. Maybe we did say it. Remember that the Pulitzer Prize Board, Trump is suing the Pulitzer Prize organization. The board, I guess, is the entity that you would sue. Because... do you remember? I think the story went that the New York Times and Washington Post, how ironic that the Washington Post, won Pulitzer Prizes for their reporting. Here it is. They're reporting on the Russian interference in the 2016 and 2020, I think, elections. I don't know whether the reporting covered 2020 or not. It might have been prior to 2020. Anyway, so he sued the Pulitzer Prize Board for giving Pulitzer Prizes to two newspapers that he doesn't like because they covered Russian interference in the 2016 election, which he denies happened. And I don't know who the lawyers for the board are, but they're doing a very good job. And remember that they said they follow the usual rule. When Donald Trump sues you personally, you should have a huge feast at discovery. Right? You should be asking for all sorts of information that he won't want to disclose, and it will put him on the wrong foot with the judge, right, to begin with. And if he does comply, then he gives you information which will likely sink, would sink a normal person. But for some reason, MAGA doesn't care about the facts. Anyway, they very creatively said, remember, now Trump was suing them personally, and he's asking for damages. Both, direct economic damages, but also, treble damages for, emotional pain and whatever, all the sorts of things that he normally attacks when other plaintiffs ask for it. But he's claiming that giving the Pulitzer Prize to the Post and Times damaged his reputation somehow by, I guess, validating the reporting that they did, which was critical of him, and so therefore his reputation was damaged, and that when his reputation is damaged, he loses money because his reputation is something he tries to monetize. And that, I guess, is actually true. That is how he, generally speaking, used to make his living. Now he just makes it with straight up bribery, instead disguised as, cryptocurrency transactions or airplanes, whatever people might be gifting to him. Anyway, but the Pulitzer Prize Board's lawyers did a very wise thing. They said, all right, well, if your claim is that we've caused you economic damage, you'll need to, as frequently is the case, always is the case in court when you're claiming economic damages, you need to prove that they happened and how much they were. And there's no better way for you to make that claim and prove your claim than by disclosing to us your financial records and your tax returns. Show us where is the damage and show us how much it was worth. I don't know whether he's really going to comply with this, but basically it would become absolutely necessary if you were going to really stake out such a claim and prove it to in a court of law. Now, it may turn out that he doesn't end up having to prove it in a court of law. He'd prove it instead in a court of, I will kill your family if you don't rule in my favor, which is different from law. We don't know exactly how that's going to come out, but it was a good opening move. And they have another follow-up opening move, which makes me want to know who their lawyers are and be able to praise them by name. But I'm not going to go and look it up because we're very busy here. However, I will thank Hoodlum on Blue Sky, who, very interestingly, this is I'm at a loss here. The name is said to be Hoodlum. What is the handle, the actual address by which you would find his feed on Blue Sky? Not hoodlum.bluesky.social. Very clever. However, he has grabbed a screenshot from Mediaite in their coverage of the story, and he comments, the Pulitzer Prize Board is demanding a complete and unredacted copy of the Mueller report as part of discovery in response to Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit over its refusal to rescind prizes awarding to the Washington Post and the New York Times for their reporting on Russian interference. You see what's happening here? Trump says it's an outrage that you gave a Pulitzer Prize to them for reporting on Russian interference, which didn't happen. And the Pulitzer Prize Board is saying, well, the reporting was based on what they were getting from their sources, but also there's a report out there, an official government report that says, yeah, there was Russian interference in the 2016 election, despite what Donald Trump says. So reporting it can't be a huge problem. It's actually true. One of the big defenses to defamation, what if the things you said are actually true? Well, then you can't be sued for that. Well, you used to not be able to be sued for that in this country. We'll see again where it comes out. Mediaite's screenshot here says just that. The Pulitzer Prize Board is demanding a complete and unredacted copy of the Mueller report as part of its discovery as it fights President Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit over its refusal to rescind prizes, right? Not only am I suing you for giving the prizes, but I'm demanding as part of my suit that you rescind them. By the way, what do you mean rescind? I mean, it should be a rescission, like we're asking for the $75 billion that was designated to ICE in the one big, beautiful bill. Anyway, there you have it. I thought that was just good tactics. Will they get it? There are a number of things standing in the way of getting a totally unredacted copy, but hey, shoot the moon. Ask for it. And if you get a redacted copy, you say, how do I know that they haven't redacted all of the evidence that proves that the plaintiff's claim here is absolutely untrue and that the reporting as recorded by the New York Times and the Washington Post are exactly true? Well, that will create some problems on the evidentiary problems. I'll say it that way rather than saying I don't think on the blank side gives me problems. I don't know what to say about that. But yes, this will essentially cause his case to collapse. I don't know ultimately whether that will upset him any. Again, if he can say, well, my case collapsed, but I'm going to threaten your families. And that's really what I was after. Anyway, it's just very interesting. That one's been hanging around a little while. Speaking of courts and the judicial system, let's stick with this story. I know I had another one planted around here somewhere. Maybe we'll see it as we scroll through it. But the updated story on Ed Martin. I don't know if we mentioned the story, but we did mention that Ed Martin is supposedly on his way out of the Justice Department, though he will likely hang around inside the White House in the pardon attorney's office. But that he's made an enemy of Todd Blanche, which is weird because it means that Todd Blanche has limits of some kind. And it may just be, I just personally dislike Ed Martin. That's going to be easy to do. And he may say, well, but I'm going to use a legalistic excuse to get rid of him, because why not? Then everybody will be happy that I'm applying the rule of law. So what's the story about why he's being booted? Here's the second of two articles, since I can't find the first, that I put away here. It's flooded. It's buried in an avalanche of other stories. Justice Department review found Trump ally Ed Martin, guess what? Improperly leaked grand jury material in probe of president's foes. And you'll remember, of course, that he is supposed to be heading up, but it looks like a figurehead thing now, but he was supposed to be heading up the working group on the weaponization of law, the weaponization of government, right? And in particular, I guess, the Department of Justice. So it's particularly unseemly then that in his investigation of the weaponization of government, he weaponized government, right? Leaking grand jury material. That's illegal. And Todd Blanche is using it as an excuse to kick him right out of the Justice Department. Good, but I think they're all probably guilty of these things. Hannah Rabinowitz, Evan Perez, and Paula Reed are the reporters for CNN on this story. A Justice Department review, which may or may not have been conducted properly, but I'm happy with the result, found that Ed Martin improperly handled grand jury materials that were part of an investigation targeting Donald Trump's political enemies, which shouldn't have been happening at all, but for the weaponization of government, of course, which he was supposed to be investigating and, well, he was supposed to be stopping, but, that ain't happening. A Justice Department review found that he improperly handled grand jury materials. At least two sources familiar with the review told CNN it was at least part of the reason that Martin was pushed out of DOJ headquarters earlier this year. There's a link. Maybe that's the article that I had. I don't know. Maybe if I open it up, will I recognize the headline? Maybe that was it. I'm not really sure. Although I do recognize the reporters on the byline here, Paula Reed and Casey Gannon. I just say, what do we call Casey Gannon's name for the other day? Maybe that was it. The review, though, also linked here, which was overseen by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's office, focused on whether grand jury material gathered in the department's mortgage fraud inquiries into Democratic Senator Adam Schiff and the one into Letitia James, New York Attorney General Letitia James, was grand jury material there illegally shared with people not authorized to possess that information. Well, multiple people briefed on the matter told CNN that yes, the review says that it was. And by Ed Martin at that. I don't know whether it was also mishandled by other people, but Ed Martin is the target of this one. The department found that Martin had shared the secret grand jury material in the Schiff case, which really went nowhere, so that one was blown up from the beginning. This, according to one of the sources, the person said Martin initially denied sharing the material with unauthorized people when asked by department leaders, but emails soon surfaced showing that Martin had in fact shared the grand jury material. Unless, of course, they were faked by AI. But hey, what can you do? A second person told CNN a finding of misconduct gave the Deputy Attorney General a reason to further ostracize Martin. Martin was removed as the head of the so-called weaponization working group on the first day of 2026 and was relocated out of the department headquarters to a building across town that houses the pardon attorney, Martin's one remaining role. President Trump ordered Ed Martin to fight weaponization wherever it's found, a person close to Martin said. As a member of the Deputy Attorney General's staff, Ed handled hundreds of cases and matters directed by the DAG. Ed, his co-chair Colin McDonald, and the members of the Weaponization Working Group followed DOJ standards and procedures at all times, except for the ones that they didn't. Martin is expected to leave the department in coming weeks. He has not been charged with the crime, though he should be, and the Justice Department hasn't determined whether any law was broken, because why would they do that? In a statement to CNN, Blanche said, "There are no misconduct investigations into Ed Martin. Ed is doing a great job as pardon attorney," which is basically, depends on what the meaning of the word is. And you remember, that used to drive Republicans up the wall, but now it's okay. The statement did not address whether there was ever a review of Martin's handling of grand jury material, and apparently there is. That's what the headline says. Martin has been a main figurehead in the president's campaign to investigate or prosecute his political foes, including the investigation into Schiff and the prosecutions of former FBI Director James Comey and Letitia James. A judge dismissed the Comey and James prosecutions in November, finding that the prosecutor who brought the charges was unlawfully appointed. So I guess the whipped cream on top of that is another attorney who wasn't the one bringing the case mishandled the grand jury materials as well. So they didn't sign the paperwork, and then they mishandled the other paperwork, i.e., I guess, the transcripts and maybe other stuff, other materials from the grand jury. They can't be trusted with any of it. And it's not just Ed Martin. It's also Lindsay Halligan and everybody else associated. In January of 2025, Trump appointed Martin as the interim, I don't have a voiceover for interim U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. He immediately started working on Trump's agenda, including demoting and pushing out senior prosecutors who worked on cases related to January 6th and vowing to protect employees of the Department of Government Efficiency, so-called, the dodgy guys. He ultimately failed to receive enough support from the Senate for his nomination to U.S. Attorney. At any rate, this is interesting. Just the idea of imagine being a working DOJ attorney and being pushed out for doing the job properly by someone who was doing the job improperly the whole time. That would be especially galling, I think. The review of Martin's handling of materials burst into public view in December after a witness who received a subpoena showed up at the courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland, seeking to testify. The witness, a Republican woman from California named Christine Bish, careful, Bish, told CNN that investigators asked her about two people who claimed to be working on fraud cases alongside Martin and Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte. Remember him? The Justice Department was investigating whether those two people were impersonating federal agents. And why not? If you're forging electoral college votes, everything less than that, and everything is less than that, is going to be no problem for you. And interesting. So, by the way, Bill Pulte should be ejected from the federal government for this. I bet he mishandled grand jury material. I bet he was the one who received the grand jury materials, now that I think about it. That would be my speculation. Days later, a social media user highlighted that ongoing probe and referenced Pulte and Martin being under investigation. Attorney General Pam Bondi responded by seemingly trying to correct the record without elaborating. There is no, whatever that means, investigation, whatever that means, into Bill Pulte, she wrote on X. Martin's removal from the head of the weaponization working group has not hindered his work to the extent that he has any. A person familiar with the matter and CNN reported that the group has ramped up its efforts to review law enforcement actions taken under the Biden administration for any examples of what Bondi has called politicized justice. Now, mishandling grand jury materials from inside the DOJ is politicized justice. But look the other way. The group plans to release some of their findings soon, the person said. I'm going to say 2 weeks, probably. I wonder which person it was that said this. All right. So now you got that story. Speaking of leaked emails, I guess, emails that show that you were leaking grand jury materials. Anyway, there's another email leak, and it's not the Epstein one, that deserves some mention. The Daily Beast has got the story. Can I read the whole thing? I briefly could. We'll start off here and then head back to Instapaper before Lee Kimmons reports for the Daily Beast. Leaked email reveals Border Patrol goons jaw-dropping complaint about tactics. What's going on here? Gregory Bovino. Do you remember that guy? Gregory Bovino urged leadership to allow him to do immigration enforcement his way. So that should make for some interesting reading. Sidelined Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino lusted, this is like the Epstein files, lusted for a more heavy-handed approach to immigration months before his foot soldiers started shooting people, a leaked email has revealed. So that might come into play in any civil suits lodged in the deaths of some of the more widely covered shootings, let's say. Bovino, until recently, would swagger through cities with his immigration goon squad in widespread sweeps that would often end in Border Patrol agents getting into ugly scrapes with protesters. This approach resulted in the deaths of protesters at the hands of federal agents, sparking mass protests in some cities, most notably Minneapolis. I think you're probably familiar with that storyline. Their deaths came after Bovino pushed back against guidance from the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement to stick to, quote, targeted operations, according to reports by NBC News. The network obtained an email apparently sent by Bovino to the Department of Homeland Security leaders in the Capitol. That would be, Washington, D.C., not the building per se. Capital, not Capitol. Where he complained about the acting director of ICE, Todd Lyons. Yeah, we've heard about the acting director. He was the one who was briefly, looked like he was going to be ordered to Minnesota to testify, but got let off the hook. In the note, sent months before federal agents shot dead 2 protesters in Minneapolis, Bovino complained that Lyons' preferred approach was too limp. We'll see whether there's any more juicy details after this. Hi, it's me, David. I mostly do the commercials around here, too. Have you ever thought you'd like to do a show like this one, but a lot shorter? Maybe without necessarily waking up early each day, or even, let's say, working at it each day? Well, now you can, sort of, and by now, I mean pretty much any time you want, because what I'm talking about is you recording a news story, sharing an essay, or otherwise contributing your thoughts on these crazy times with the rest of us, and with any digital recording device. Make the show your own, as I like to say. Send me a digital file of your recording, a link to any source material, and a note about how you'd like to be identified on the air at KagroX, that's KAGROX, at gmail.com, and I'll take it from there. Don't worry about those ums and ahs either. I sure don't, but I'll even do my best to edit your submission down into a nice-sounding dispatch from the field. So come on, everybody, make the show your own. Help me prove once and for all that I'm not just imagining this audience. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. You know, as I'm skimming through this story about Greg Bovino's emails to Todd Lyons and others, I guess no surprise involved here. This is pretty much the way everybody saw things develop. Everybody saw the results of this mode of thinking out on the streets. It was very clear and has been very clear from the beginning that ICE, and we've said it a number of times, ICE and its officers, while abusive, no doubt, are generally taking the more process-oriented approach, I guess, in that they're saying, well, we're going to make a list of people that we want to target. Now, that list is probably improper and overbroad and wrong, but target them and try to, I guess, visit them at their homes or workplaces and take them into custody, whereas Border Patrol guys were the ones roaming the streets at large and just saying, that guy looks like an immigrant, grab him. And so clearly, in private, it probably shouldn't surprise anybody that he's advocating, we should be doing that, because I'm doing that. We should all be doing that. Let's do more of that. And the other guy's saying, well, maybe not quite that. Anyway, I just, I want to put that out there and let you know that if you end up, if you're the plaintiff in any cases in the future against Bovino personally or the Border Patrol as an organization, you'll want to subpoena those emails as proof of his intent. And in many cases, it would also establish his intent to proceed extra legally in many of these cases. All right, let's see. Oh, I mentioned to you yesterday on the way out of the show, I mentioned, as we've been musing over one of the many reasons why you shouldn't be permitting unchecked and unaccountable deployment of chemical agents in these cities and doing it at a whim is that it opens up one, it creates an awful lot of confusion about who's doing what and why and under what authority, and it opens up the possibility of the deployment of some more dangerous chemical agent and then being unable to actually determine who did it and how so that you could prevent it from happening again. And listeners forwarded to me the ABC News report that, well, at a minimum, the FBI is turning up home biological labs of some kind, and that's quite concerning. And I guess the first half of the article was mostly like, well, what you're basically saying to me is you found a bunch of stuff in a refrigerator that looked weird, and that's not quite all that convincing. But then, of course, the discovery of a centrifuge along with this. Well, there's not a lot that you use a centrifuge for that is good in a home garage full of unidentified materials. That's not often going to be reassuring to the public. But then the really surprising part was that later on in the article, they say, well, where was it? The person that was arrested in this on last weekend, was identified as Ori, O-R-I, Ori Solomon, 55, believed to be the property manager at this location in Las Vegas, right? Solomon was charged with felony disposal / discharge of hazardous waste in an unauthorized manner. So a little lower than the terrorism threshold. But three people who rented a room from the property owner were safely removed from the residence and apparently not involved in the investigation. But the owner of the property, who's not Solomon, he's the property manager, but yet he's the one arrested. But this is interesting. Right, this was a bit of a shock at the end. The owner of the property in Las Vegas was arrested and charged in 2023 in connection with an investigation into another illegal biolab in Reedley, California, authorities said. And really, honestly, that deserved some dramatic music at the time, I think. But we were out of time. But how do you roam free after your second connection to shady underground biological laboratories being discovered by the FBI? I don't know. I mean, well, I don't know for sure. I guess if I had to speculate, in addition to the more mundane possibility of, well, we've never managed to develop evidence of knowledge of both of these labs until now, and so later he'll be charged. But by the way, another good speculation, that would explain things is it's Eric Trump. Well, it's probably not, but that would explain how you could be running two illicit biolabs in two different states and not be charged by the FBI at this point. That would explain it, but that's probably not it. But there you go. That seems like a really weird thing. The owner, a Chinese national, remains in remains in federal custody and has pleaded not guilty. So never mind all that. One, it's not Eric Trump. He's not a Chinese national, as far as I know. But the part about how do you remain at large if you have been arrested, or if two properties that you own have turned out to have illicit biolabs in them. And the answer is he's not at large. He's in federal custody. Okay, well, at least there's that. We got that going for us, which is nice. The case led to a congressional investigation that found the illegal biolab, which one, I'm not sure, the one in California maybe, had allegedly been receiving money from Chinese banks and was housing thousands of samples of potential pathogens labeled as being HIV, malaria, TB, COVID-19, and even Ebola. The items found in the Las Vegas residence were consistent in appearance with the items found and described in the Reedley, California lab investigation, McMahill said on Monday. McMahill, you may recall, is the local law enforcement guy in charge of the Las Vegas part of this investigation. So I guess they'll be merging those investigations and trying to figure out what is going on and why are the Chinese banks financing an operation like this, and what do they intend to do with this stuff? And I don't know. It worries me. Again, the fact that it's possible to manufacture biological weapons in a home environment, plus a centrifuge, plus money from Chinese banks, I guess. God help us if in the fog of war, in the literal fog of the literal war that's going on in some of these cities, something else gets released. Because I got to tell you, if that happened and we got initial reports, I will say my mind would not likely have gone first. Some other people would be different, and usually they're kooks, but they would have been right in this one. If your mind then went first to, it's China, I probably would have said, it's Atomwaffen, it's Patriot Front, it's a screw up in the supply chain for Border Patrol goons. I don't know. I don't think that really is the most likely explanation. But China it would have taken me a while, or a report like this, to come around to thinking about, which I guess is part of the Chinese plan, if there even is one. All right, I just found that interesting and necessary as background information. There are definitely a few other items. One note I want to make along the way, and it looks like it might be a quick one from the New York Times from the other day, as I'm scrolling down to the other things I want to cover for you. Northern Command, the armed forces, tells North Carolina and Alaska troops that they should stand down on a possible Minnesota deployment. You remember when their deployment alert went out and it was still the height of everybody's worries about Greenland, but European countries were also convinced that it was as likely that those troops, the Arctic troops, were being put on alert to be deployed to Minneapolis as much as Greenland. Well, now they're not being put on alert for anything. That doesn't mean they won't go, but that's the news. More than 1,500 active duty troops had been on standby to deploy to. Could have been anywhere. Then they eliminated the Greenland, and then they said Minnesota, and now they say not even there. But they were quietly taken off heightened alert over the weekend, Eric Schmidt reports. There's not that much to it. We can read you the whole thing and see if there's any additional information that leads us to anything else. The military's Northern Command has taken more than 1,500 active duty troops in Alaska and North Carolina off heightened alert for possible deployment to Minnesota. A U.S. official said on Monday, on condition of anonymity to discuss operational matters. Ordinarily, you might not think that North Carolina was the place to station Arctic combat troops, but things changed last week in North Carolina. But once they got some actual Arctic conditions, they were taken off of alert. All right. Well, you can train and you can base them anywhere. The infantry, soldiers, and military police were told last month to prepare for possible deployment to the state. Maybe that's what was going on in North Carolina, where President Trump had threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act as a response to protests there against the January 7th killing of a Minneapolis woman by a federal immigration officer, but the shooting death by immigration officers of a second U.S. citizen, Alex Pretti. Why don't they say Renee Good in here? On January 24th, galvanized public sentiment against the federal government's tactics and forced the administration to retreat. Over the weekend, Northern Command quietly ordered the active duty troops to stand down. There are two different things, right? Tell the Proud Boys to stand down. Stand by, Proud Boys. See? That's why it was such a problem. All right. So that's on the record. Let's continue scrolling down towards the things I wanted to bring to your attention. I did make mention at least of the French and Spanish and English prosecutors probing X and Grok. We didn't get all the way through that article, but I think you got the gist of it. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's a weird one, but I'm going to have to put that one on hold for now. Where I wanted to go was a couple, maybe a week or two ago, there was a very interesting article with more background information about, what's his name, the weirdo, Nick Shirley, who the provocateur and I guess James O'Keefe wannabe, who provoked the response against the Somali American community in Minnesota that ended up then being the premise of this huge invasion by ICE and Border Patrol. And I saw this article that was very intriguingly titled and thought it would be worth sharing with you because there's definitely something weird and off about Nick Shirley and his mom and the fact that he and his mom are an influencer, commentator team, YouTuber team. That's just bizarre all by itself. But before I got a chance to bring you this piece, the New York Times then had since now come in for criticism, having done like the critics say, a glow-up piece on Nick Shirley, like what's behind the scenes and what's he really thinking, and basically the sort of attention that he's craved all along that you really shouldn't be given to him. But I didn't put that article aside because it was very annoying and people did not like it, didn't like seeing it published, but it might be worth parsing through to criticize later on. But before that, there was something from The Verge On January 29th, can I get this all the way through, or am I going to be firewalled? I don't know if they have a paywall or not. Yeah, they do. All right. So let me reload the page so I can get the actual Mia Sato, or Sato, S-A-T-O, is the author of this piece. It's now working under the title The Rise of the Slopagandist, and I love all everybody's nicknames. We never did get back to Don Moynihan and his, what was it? Clicktatorship, right? But the original title that grabbed my attention here is a simple one. What is, not who is, but what is Nick Shirley? I was intrigued by that. And I guess the answer ultimately is slopagandist. All right, so here's the story. The violent federal occupation of Minneapolis and the subsequent killings of 2 residents at the hands of immigration agents began with a vlog, video log, right? It's the video version of a blog. Nick Shirley, a roving 23-year-old with a smartphone and a taste for outrage, made a YouTube video with unfounded allegations of fraud at daycares operated by the local Somali American community. Like so much partisan media in history, he was trying to rile up the right-wing base, but he was also playing to another audience, the algorithm. Damn it, it's the algorithms again. When I wrote about Shirley in early January, I described him as an influencer, a catch-all term that could be applied to a wide range of people, anyone from Joe Rogan to a 20-something woman sharing shine hauls, you tell me what the hell that is, on TikTok. I don't know. I'm so out of touch with all of this. All right, but Shirley exhibits many shared behaviors. He has a following with parasocial tendencies. Might have to look that word up. His style and sensibilities are finely tuned to what will play well online. Like libs of TikTok, I guess. He hawks merch at every turn. His literal influence reaches into the highest offices of the U.S. government. Vice President J.D. Vance has sung his praises, for instance. But Shirley and his ilk are not just content creators with a right-wing twist. They're algo hounds. He was not just making plain old propaganda. He was making internet slop. We mostly talk about it in the context of AI-generated material, but slop does not need to be synthetic. AI slop is just a subgenre of a larger type of content that is made quickly and cheaply and poorly. The same lukewarm financial advice peddled by thousands of literal talking heads on Instagram Reels is slop. Falsehoods and oversimplifications about breaking news or contentious celebrity drama that snowball to millions of views is slop. Engagement bait is slop. The president's social media posts are slop. The main function of slop is to take something from you. Your time, your attention, your trust. It is passive in that it requires nothing from viewers but to sit back and consume it. Slop is boring, repetitive, and often inexpensive to make, the natural evolution of an internet built for scale and ruthless optimization. Before his pivot to conservative politics, Shirley was making slop for babies. YouTube videos with titles like 16-year-old flies to New York without telling parents, and giving my teachers $1,000 for Christmas. Emotional. It just literally says that. Asterisk, emotional asterisk. Like, okay. I always wondered about most of the garbage that's on YouTube, and I guess this explains most of it. A few years ago, Shirley seems to have discovered that what the algorithm actually rewards is inflammatory political content. His views swelled as he hammered on Donald Trump and MAGA talking points around immigration, drugs, and the 2024 presidential election. But even in his newfound political lane, the slop tendencies remained. At least 4 video titles follow the format of bracket, insert city here, essentially. City has fallen. I guess he got big hits when he put Portland has fallen, so now everything has fallen. And Shirley and others like him revisit the same topics over and over. They go to Canal Street in New York City or to Kensington in Philadelphia to demonstrations trying to make liberal protesters and passersby look foolish. Many people making content like this call themselves independent journalists, and the content they produce, reporting. But it is, of course, slop, what she's getting at here. Partisan media and shoddy reporting have a long history in the U.S., but one parallel stands out. The era of the so-called yellow press, which got its name from a cartoon strip published in papers featuring a child in a yellow shirt, the yellow kid, you might know. It was a wonderful moment before professional news values had really set in, before there were professional codes of ethics, says Lucas Graves, distinguished researcher, a distinguished person as well, at Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, and a professor at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Easier to pronounce for us English speakers. The biggest newspapers like the New York World and the New York Journal would run serious reported news stories, but they would also run stories to try to generate outrage and almost invent scandals in order to sell more newspapers, Graves said. There's debate about how much responsibility yellow journalism carries at the outbreak of the Spanish-American War of 1898, which has got to be an interesting field of study for someone who's a professor at a Spanish university and an American university, right? But like the contemporary slopagandists and the Trump administration, the press coverage and government actions were in sync. The government wanted public outrage directed at Spain and to expand its empire. The yellow press wanted to sell newspapers. There's an alignment between the creator's interest in generating outrage and gaining audience or getting clicks, and the government's interest in helping to drive public support for whatever its desired policy is, Graves said. And that's when a partisan press becomes really dangerous. The difference is that modern slopagandists have an unprecedented amount of data about how their content is performing and what their audiences want. Traditional media outlets of the 20th century had only crude signals, newspaper circulation figures, Nielsen ratings, and journalists therefore imagined what their audiences wanted to read. Digitally savvy content creators do not need to guess. They have instant granular data about what their viewers watch, what titles and topics get them to click, and when they drop off, and endless comments to gauge how people feel about a new video. Many modern newsrooms use audience metrics to guide coverage, but feeding viewers only what makes the numbers go up isn't journalism, it's news slop. I can tell you that, as users of YouTube and other podcasting hosting systems, that information is available to me. I don't really know exactly how to read. I can find the information. I don't know how to interpret it, and I don't bother. It just wouldn't be interesting to me. Like, I'm sure what drives viewers and subscriptions is doing the same story over and over again and pretending it's a different story. I mean, I guess to some extent we do that here, but it just wouldn't be interesting to me. That kind of shaping of the content, not because it's interesting to me, but because it will make you think you're interested in something, is just not something I'm going to spend my time on. But I guess it costs us. It surely does. News slop just makes more money because, you don't have to do any reporting. You just do the same thing over and over again. That's pretty easy. Independent journalism, in scare quotes, like Shirley, or independent journalists like Shirley, get to have it both ways. They are the media now, to borrow a line from Elon Musk, but they also get to rail against the MSM, to tell their viewers that journalism is dead. Though his claims were unfounded and his evidence sloppy, Shirley's viral fraud video achieved something that many reporters dream of: immediate impact. It's almost unheard of that a single story results in an instantaneous response from multiple federal agencies. There is also a deep irony in framing oneself as counterculture or alternative when your work aligns neatly with those in power. When was the last time a vice president uplifted a 23-year-old's vlog as more useful than Pulitzer winners? Shirley's audience includes Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and Lisa Demuth, D-E-M-U-T-H. I think we mentioned her the other day, a Republican running for governor in Minnesota, who reportedly provided Shirley with information that was used in his fraud video. You either die an outsider, that's what we'll be doing, or live long enough to see yourself become the mainstream. After his viral fraud video triggered an influx of federal immigration agents in Minneapolis, Shirley sat down for a long conversation with Channel 5, a left-leaning infotainment account hosted by Andrew Callahan that helped popularize this kind of news content. Both men refer to themselves as independent journalists and talk at length about the media industry, specifically the idea that traditional media is dying. They're not totally wrong. And that content creators like themselves are what will take its place. Shirley bristles at being labeled an influencer in press coverage. Every single time they bring up Nick Shirley on these news sites or on the internet or on their TV, they'll say right-wing YouTuber, MAGA YouTuber, conservative, Shirley said. Well, that's correct. The YouTuber has paid people to appear in his politically charged videos, continuously repeats inaccurate claims, and ask the president and senior administration officials how he can help them. He withheld the full name of a source in the video who turned out to be a right-wing lobbyist. Is that, what's his name? I just saw he just appeared before Congress testifying about this very subject, and I forget his name, but maybe, it's linked here. Can we open it? It's the Intercept reporting on, that he identified his source only as David, but it's David Hoch or Hawk, H-O-C-H, I'm not sure which. Yeah, he did just end up testifying before Congress and spreading, vicious lies and rumors as usual. He's in the news. You should keep up with it. All right. He withheld the full name of his source of the video, who turned out to be this right-wing lobbyist. He seems unfamiliar with how daycares operate to begin with, right? It's never journalist Nick Shirley, he complains. Well, a journalist would know how daycare works. By the way, David Hoch, whatever his name is, was giving testimony the other day that he discovered the fraud in the daycare centers in his neighborhood by looking to see whether there were little child-sized footprints in the snow. And if there weren't, that must mean that there are no kids in the building, except that they would have been walking over the shoveled part of the sidewalk, not the other part. All right. Anyway, good old evidence. Brooke Erin Duffy, associate professor at Cornell University, notes that the label of influencer still has stigma. Its feminine-coded nature, and trappings of crass commercialism complicate its uptake in news and public affairs, Duffy said in an email. Journalists, by contrast, are expected to have professional training and accreditation. At one point, Callahan says that traditional media lost the trust of the public because news pundits and political parties became too closely entwined, that the public felt CNN was a Democrat microphone and Fox News the Republican mouthpiece. The fear that I've thought about the fear now that I've thought about before, and I'm not saying this is happening, it will probably take 5 to 10 years, is that somehow the political powers that be figure out how to use the independent creator economy over on a sleeper cell level to do their bidding for them, Callahan says. Even Shirley agrees that it could happen, but says he has not and would not take deals with party-aligned groups. I think he probably does. I make enough money doing my videos off YouTube and the people who support me. Why would I ever turn against their best interest? Shirley didn't respond to The Verge's request for comment, though. But by the way, I make enough money off of my videos by having other people drive views and algorithms to make it so that I make money. And if I stop doing their bidding, they won't drive it to me anymore. But I would never take a deal with them. Wink. It's just on the sly. In an era when everything, even a top-secret government operation, is monetizable, slopagandists don't need to be on the state payroll to have their livelihood tied to the administration. They do not even need to possess coherent politics or ideologies other than whatever plays well online at the time or what successfully incites a response from a federal government that has chained itself to the algorithm. On X, they swim in the backwash of a myopic mob, taking signals from its billionaire owner and ghost patriot accounts. Meanwhile, Trump's approval rating when it comes to immigration is at a record low, and anti-ICE sentiment is catching on in all kinds of communities, including those you'd least expect. Wrestling, maybe? For many Americans, people like Shirley have indeed replaced or added to their news consumption habits, even if what they do has little in common with journalism. I am not especially precious about who calls themselves a journalist. You don't have to go to a journalism school to be a reporter. You don't have to work at a well-known news outlet to do great work. You can work across forms, whether it's 10,000-word features or 10-minute videos. But actual journalists need ethics and lines they will not cross. They need editorial standards and a commitment to correcting errors when they occur. Traditional media and newsrooms are far from perfect, but at least we can say so. Slopagandists, on the other hand, can never be wrong because their work does not need to be based in fact. The other problem for slopagandists, of course, is that the signals they answer to are fickle. One change and the machine that pays their bills becomes a roadblock. They will decry the algorithm as sensorial until they eventually need to pivot to celebrity commentary in order to find a new audience. When the inevitable switch-up happens, and it usually does, it'll be because there's a new carrot to chase, a new kind of outrage to perform for the recommendation engine. They are already signs that Shirley might try to manufacture as the next cause celeb. He was chased out of a Baltimore Narcotics Anonymous meeting last week, claiming to be filming a video on fentanyl, and was spotted in the city trying to interview people about overdoses. When his video finally posted, I think I can guess what they will have uncovered. Yeah, by the way, filming in anything anonymous meeting, probably not going to be taken very well.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
All right, we're out of here. Time for Justice Putnam to bring you the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Top on the list, Melania's email to Ghislaine Maxwell has Trump shivering. Then on the rest of the menu, a Texas A&M professor fired over gender identity lessons is suing the university, for violating her free speech and due process rights to appease political critics. See you tomorrow.